call sign on the ticket.
All right, good evening. I'm John, KM4BVH, and we've got field day coming up. And one of the things that I love to do at field day, or really, as you'll see, I have several projects. I love solar power. I have since I was a little kid. When I was a little kid, my dad had this little windmill that he got as a desk ornament, and it had a small little round solar panel on it. It had this little gooseneck light, and I would be just fascinated and just like, how on earth does this work? So, my first solar project had nothing to do with ham radio. I built this because I'm a diehard race fan, and I wanted to go to Talladega, and I didn't want to pull a great big camper. And the campsites of Talladega don't have any electricity. So this thing was equipped with everything on it, was operated off of 12 volt. And I had little 12 volt reading lights, 12 volt TV, stereo system. And then the back end would open up for my coolers and camp stove. And on top I had two 50-watt solar panels that charged a deep cycle battery. And when I did the math, I wanted to be able to have everything on and run everything all night long if needed, but then have enough solar power to completely recharge that battery the next day. So, but that was my first attempt at solar, and it actually worked out pretty good. So, if you want to build your own solar generator, you've got to ask yourself some questions. First off is, what are you trying to power? So for me, I was powering an ICOM 7200, two laptops, one for operating digital and the other was for logging. And also I wanted charging for my cell phones or other mobile devices. So I went online to ICOM and found out what my 7200 would draw power-wise. And you'd have to look at standby, receive time, and standby, receive, and transmit, because you're going to have more power, use more power when you're transmitting. And then I would basically half those, add them together, half them, and that would come up with my amps per hour that I was going to need for the 7200. And then the laptops, again, use good old Google. So yeah, the ICOM 7200 was 2 amps at receive, 22 amps, and that's also full power in transmit. So, and then the two laptops, they were doing about 5 amps. Got to look at the duty cycle. We're not talking 100% of the time. So I put 50% of the time it's transmitting, 50% of the time that it's receiving. So power will be kept below 35 watts. So the average current draw per hour would be 4.78 amps per hour.
John, is 35 watts just something you decided, or is that kind of standard?
When operating digital modes, everything I've read, for safety purposes, not burning up your finals, to keep it under 30 watts,
Okay.
really. That's what I've always heard. Now, does that mean that if I'm chasing a faraway contact, I might bump it up to 100 watts for a few cycles and then bump it back down? Guilty. But yeah, they do say don't run your digital modes at full power. So adding this all together, the transceiver will use about, you can round up, say 5 amps an hour, laptops 5 amps an hour. So I had the total of 9.78 amps per hour. All this math is to determine what size of battery you're going to need. So how long does it need to run? Field day's late June, right around the summer solstice. So when I put this together a few years ago, sunset was at 8:17, sunrise was at 5:45, so we needed to run for 9 hours, 9.5 hours. So basically I needed 117.36 watts of battery power. So I ended up going with a 100 amp AGM battery, if I remember right, on that particular build. And first year it worked great. But as the battery has worn over the years, it has come time to upgrade the batteries.
100 watt.
Huh?
100 amp.
100 amp, I'm sorry.
I was doing the math.
Yeah, I saw some funny faces. Yeah, sorry. 100 amp, 100 amp. Okay. Other factors on your batteries are cost, weight, and the size. Cost, that was another factor on the AGM battery because the LiFePO batteries were just out of my price range for that size at the time. Weight, that AGM battery, I'm older now, it about breaks my back trying to get it in the car, so.
It's heavier than a regular car battery.
Yeah. And then size, if you're trying to fit it into a certain style of case or, something like that. Solar panel selection, you have to be able to, the math is very similar, but you've got to be able to power all your equipment plus have enough extra power to charge the battery during the day. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to continue this indefinitely. So our example, we had 14 and a half hours of available sunlight, which means we needed 6.89 amps per hour or 82.75 watts if the battery was completely discharged. Taking the load plus the additional needed to charge gives us 200.11 watts worth of panels that I needed. And I actually rounded down. I went with 2 100-watt panels for this particular project. Again, there's some other things to take into consideration. Cost, do you want rigid panels or flexible? And the physical size of the panels. And truthfully, in recent years, a 100-watt panel used to be at least 4 feet long, and they're getting them down, almost half that size now. And a lot of the flexible panels are giving good performance nowadays as well. So there's a lot of options out there. Solar controller selection. So there's a couple of different types. MPPT, that was like maximum, and then pulse width modulation. MPPT is going to be more expensive, but they are a more efficient controller. A lot of them nowadays, and they do have some pulse width modulation controllers that have Bluetooth capability where you can have an app and monitor your battery and your system and how it's performing. And you want to make sure you pay attention to the battery chemistry because a lot of the pulse width modulation ones will not do LiFePOs. Some will. You just got to pay attention because if you're using a LiFePO and you try to charge it with something that's non-LiFePO, the results are not going to be good. So there is a quick formula to determine the size of your controller because they're all rated in amps. And basically you take the total wattage of the array, I think I put this, divided by the voltage of your batteries. And then multiply it by 1 1/4 to have some spare. Because I was inverted, brief note about charging your laptop. This is just my personal preference. I do not run an inverter at field day to charge my laptops. To me, it makes no sense to take a DC voltage, step it up to AC, only to drop it back down to DC to charge the laptop. So I get on Amazon and I buy 12-volt cigarette lighter style chargers for my particular brand of laptop.
And you mentioned most inverters will only give you about 90% efficiency.
Right.
So you lose a little there too.
Yeah, so you're going to be much more efficient if you just keep everything DC. Now, if you've got stuff that you have to run an inverter on, that's fine. But for sake of this project, did not want to use an inverter. So components I'm using, I've got the 200-watt Renogy solar panels. That's the big, heavy, ugly battery. I'm actually upgrading this, hopefully this year, to a LiFePO, but I also have to update the solar controller because the controller I have will not do LiFePO. Yeah, that's the controller I have. It's cheap Chinese, got a couple USB ports to charge the devices. And then I put it in this nice DeWalt rolling toolbox. Additional components that I put into this project, I had a 12-volt fuse box. I cannot emphasize enough using circuit protections. You're still dealing with voltages. So you can still have a fire. You can still have all kinds of problems. Use a fuse box. They're cheap. They're like $6 on Amazon for an automotive fuse box. I get these panel mount modules. I wish I would have brought some with me. And I've got a power pole receptacle so that I can plug my radio directly into the box and various other connectors. So here's where I have my battery. I've got a master cutoff switch here. There's my fuse box and my negative bus, solar controller. That goes to the battery. This goes to the load. The solar panels will plug in there. And then the end, this is, kind of the finished product where I've got all my, all the plugs that I need to operate my equipment. I plug my radio in here. I can recharge the devices here, plug my laptops in. I'm good to go.
John, does the battery have its own fuse?
It's got a cutoff and it's got a fused link, an inline.
They're bigger than a
Yeah.
regular automotive.
Yep. So, but it's got inline.
Yeah, there's nothing like Arco.
So that's it set up at field day at the old spot. How many people remember the, so that was my first, well, it wasn't my first field day there, but my first field day I ever went to was down there in front of the horse show arena. And as you can see, there's running a couple laptops and the radio. Look who that is. I don't think he's taking notes.
ST8 maybe.
So I'm wanting to upgrade. I'm spoiled. And so I'm kind of like Tim the Toolman Taylor, more power. Anyway, I found this toolbox on sale at Harbor Freight and I picked it up and I plan on putting 200 amp LiFePOs in it. I actually had it out at the, I've started on the project, I haven't finished it yet, but had it out at the,
Which is probably less weight than one of the.
it is. It is so nice. And then I'm also doing a UHF VHF box, that thinner one that'll lock on top, kind of like a briefcase, but it'll interlock on there that'll have a 20 amp battery in it. You can scale this up or down for other projects. This is what I have out in my Jeep. This one actually does LiFePO. I've got a 20 amp hour LiFePO battery. My solar panels that are mounted on the roof plug in here. I've got an on-off switch. Behind here is a fuse box. And I can actually, from the back of the car, plug a laptop in and run FT8. This is a circuit breaker for the solar panels where they come into my car. And usually this circuit breaker is open because I don't want it charging unless I want it charging. Something about having a LiFePO battery in the back near the fuel tank of the vehicle, I just kind of like to have a little more control over when that thing's charging and not just let it run away on its own. So that's the solar panel on top. I've got these T-slots on this rack here, and I literally clamped this down onto the rack, and that way if I want to put something else on the rack, I can easily remove it and put it back on whenever I want to use it. So, Meshtastic. You got any meshers in here? Yeah, you can do your own solar node for that. Same components. You've got a battery, a solar panel, and a controller. So that's another project on my, I think I have about 6 or 7 unfinished things on my bench at home. But I want to put this all in a like an electrical box and stick it up facing south and not have to worry about it. Starlink, these batteries, these are really cool. They're made by EcoWorthy. They're 20 amp. They have a DC port built right on top where you've got your 2 lugs. This will run my Starlink Mini all day long. A couple months ago, these batteries were about $60 on Amazon, which is not a bad price, and they're very ruggedized. I looked at them a few days ago. They've gone up to 80, so hopefully they'll go back down once things settle down in the world. But and that's what I'm going to put in my UHF VHF briefcase box that I was looking at doing.
That's a LiPo too.
Yeah. Think outside the box. You don't have to put it in a box. I've seen YouTube videos, and we had a guy, David Wilkie, I can't remember his call, but he was at Field Day a few years ago and did one on a 2-wheel dolly with the backer board on it and had the batteries down here. So if you're doing AGM and worried about the weight, yeah, you just wheel that thing on a 2-wheel dolly. You see some different versions of that. Same components, although that's an inverter there, but you got your solar, your controller, your battery, and that's all I have. Any questions? And it doesn't encompass,
How
huh?
much is your new bill gonna be? And that LiPo battery's gonna jump it.
Yeah, I mean, I've already got a good 500
Yeah.
just in the batteries in the box. And then I'm going to go with a really nice MPPT controller. And I think that's going to be another, I'm probably going to have $1,000 in
But
it.
you're gonna have a stronger, you can buy those things off the shelf.
Right.
Blue Eddy and Echo, but you're gonna have one that's got.
Oh yeah, it'll have more power than those do. And if something goes wrong,
It's modular.
right, I can replace one of the batteries, or I can replace the controller, or I can. So, anyway, be happy to answer any questions, so.
So, when did you decide you were going to evolve your system?
It was probably about a year ago. Well, it was the last field day that I did. I noticed that the AGM battery was starting to get a little weaker, and you know, I've been running it for 5 or 6 years, and was also tired of lifting it.
That's what we said on your birthday.
Yeah. And then again, you know, I want bigger, better. I want to be able to do everything. I want to be able to run a 12-volt ceiling fan from my canopy. I mean, 12-volt, a camping style, you know, run some lights, you know. But yeah, that's really what led to it.
So a quick poll of everybody that's here. I'm sorry, you have a question, Paul?
I was just going to ask about the AGM batteries. I've heard you're only supposed to use those down about 50%. So, or
I've run it down next to nothing before,
okay.
and it recharged.
They're
It's not
more
good.
forgiving than a normal lead acid battery, but not as forgiving as a LiPo.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Go ahead.
How many of you in the room have a battery of some sort that you could run your radios off of?
Just one battery?
At least a battery. Okay, fair. How many of you can recharge that battery?
Without commercial power.
Multiple ways.
All right.
Cool. So, it's fun. I like tinkering with this stuff, so.
There you go. Nice. All right, not to jump in front of Adam, but real quick, we'll take just a real quick stand-up stretch your legs for a minute, and then we're going to jump in and talk about the 146.82 repeater and kind of the action plan for this.